What's the most believable conspiracy theory you've come across? Vladimir Putin set up those apartment building bombings to restart the war in Chechnya and solidify his hold on power. The explosives used only come from one factory and it's under the direct control of the SFB. About 4 years or so ago, NBC announced that SNL would be doing sponsored skits. Now SNL always featured products, but not because they were getting paid but because it was part of the joke. Then after that NBC announcement we got some really weird skits. The world's most evil invention, which is just absolutely insane. Then the one you can't find on YouTube because SNL pulled it, but it's the safe repair sketch which can be found on other spots. I think there is one more I can't remember. If you watch those sketches they get really dark. I'm thinking Lauren agreed to the sponsored sketches but the writers purposely made them dark to scare away sponsored content. That isn't to say SNL hasn't made some great sketches including certain products. They did one several years ago about a certain type of paint product and when asked about it the cast and crew said they just really liked the product. And then the more recent Zillow sketch. The Flat Earth conspiracy theory was created to discredit all the conspiracy theories because it wanted to prove that people would believe everything, so should never be listened to. The idea was you guys really listen to conspiracy theorists who claim Epstein didn't kill himself? Come on, some of those believe the earth is flat, forget them. Anyway, people actually started believing in Flat Earth and now do reunions. Gary Webb was murdered. He was the reporter who helped blow the lid off of the CIA flooding the U.S. with crack cocaine as part of the Iran-Contra scandal. He committed suicide with 2 gunshots to the head. What a committed fellow. Not really a conspiracy theory but in the same category I guess. The Mandela effect. I just can't get over how it's Looney Tunes and not Looney Tunes and how the famous Star Wars quote isn't, "Luke, I am your father." I mean even the actor remembers saying it that way. Where did the "no, I am your father" come from? The meta-misinformation conspiracy theory that claims that a certain amount of conspiracy theories were created by those who are targets of conspiracy theories, big government, etc. This was done so that conspiracy theorists are generalized as crazy paranoid people and no conspiracy theory is taken seriously, especially the ones who have at least some truth to it. In America there was a deliberate attempt to make talking about once infamous societal taboo to limit your ability to benchmark your personal salary and make the wage givers have far greater bargaining power. Modern art is a money laundering scheme. I'm a millionaire and I pay an artist $25,000 to make some piece of garbage art piece. Then I get my friend's friend to appraise the art at $2.5 million. Then I donate the art to the museum where the critics make fun of the peons who just don't get it. Now I'm a philanthropist who can get a $2.50 mill tax write-off. Everyone gets kickbacks, we get crap art. Edit, I suppose scam would be more appropriate than money laundering. I guess it wouldn't have to be dirty money or anything. I more mean a way for the rich to get richer though deliberately inflated values. The Bisley Boy. It's a theory actually studied by Bram Stoker, the author of Dracula, that suggested Queen Elizabeth I died during the plague in England, at the age of 10, and was replaced with one of her playmates who was a boy so the servants wouldn't face the wrath of King Henry VIII. It's Bram Stoker did a lot of research around the subject and it's definitely an interesting read. That government officials were tampering with death certificates to make COVID deaths go down. My dad died because of COVID. We constantly got reports from the doctors at how amazed they were that everything was fine besides his lungs. They were so good that they would have taken all eligible organs. Besides lungs, for donation had it not been for COVID. Then when we get his death certificate, which came a few months late, COVID was nowhere to be found, and it stated that he died of a random heart attack at random time and random place. He died because we had to take him off life support. We were all around him in the hospital when he passed, and there sure as hell wasn't a heart attack. The journalist who died in a car accident after investigating the Afghan war. The conspiracy is that his car was remotely taken over and slammed into a tree because of what he had uncovered. I think his name was Michael Hastings. Edit. Here's his wiki page. Relevant section is controversy over foul play. https://n.m.wiki/Michael_Hastings_journalist. Bill Clinton wasn't cheating on Hillary with Lewinsky. Rather, the Clintons are in an open marriage, but they decided it was less scandalous to have a cheating president than one in an open marriage. Darth Jar Jar. Well, kinda. For anyone unaware, this is a fan theory that Jar Jar Binks was secretly a Sith Lord the entire time. Canonically, he most certainly is not a Sith Lord unless you think he dinked around the galaxy as a jester for 50 years while his BFF Palpatine conquered the galaxy twice. I think he was intended to be a Sith Lord, but Lucas changed it after the fan backlash. I find the idea fascinating because of implications if this was true. Not believable. But my favorites are the ones that are just so absurd that no one would seriously believe them, and there's no evidence other than here's this idea I came up with, probably while high, and have put no thought into. It's definitely true. Stuff like birds aren't real, and that conspiracy about the frickin' huge tree stumps of supposedly all the maces. The most believable. Probably the one that suggests that the alien spaceship reports are just humans from the future. This makes sense to me, as they never attack, don't try to engage, and there's a rule of time travel that says to try not to engage with the past. Call me crazy, but I think it makes sense. The CIA helped cartels funnel crack and other hard drugs into black neighborhoods in the 80s and 90s. It's just so frickin' sketchy to me that the CIA would be so present in fucking up South America and fucking up black people at the same time in history, and then just throw their hands in the air and say nope, we didn't do that. Do aliens count as a conspiracy? I think it's impossible for aliens not to exist. Space is infinite, with infinite possibilities, and if we're here, there absolutely has to be another place with those same or similar enough conditions. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect so many replies. I wish I was smart enough to talk to you all about your evidence. Most of us seem to agree that there are absolutely aliens, but they probably have never been here, and won't be here in our lifetime. It's a shame, but it's fun to think about. I'm glad that every day we're getting closer to discovering an alien species, though. Here's to hoping we find one someday. That there was no conspiracy surrounding JFK's shooting. A very plausible scenario I heard, and I can't quote word for word, is that there had been a big bash the night before November 22nd and that Secret Service guys had gotten blitzed. According to this theory, an SS guy was still hungover and accidentally discharged his weapon into Kennedy's head, killing him. I am extremely skeptical that after all these years, there has been a conspiracy to assassinate an American president that is so airtight that we still have nothing to go on but baseless speculation about the mob, aliens, whatever else has been in the mix. Occam's razor applies. Michael Jackson was chemically castrated by his insane-ass father to keep his voice from changing, to try to justify it to the horrified child. He was told he would remain a young boy forever, just like Peter Pan. Hence Neverland Ranch, plastic surgery to appear more fairy-like, and his virginity at the time of his marriage to Lisa Marie Presley. He obviously is not the biological father to his children, and his preoccupation, sexual or otherwise, with young boys is a bizarre side effect of the psychological torment of castration and celebrity. An Ohio or North Dakota guard Viper guy shot down United 93. Reasons for cover-up are self-evident. I wouldn't want anyone to know if I'd had to do it either. I'm not touching the rest of the 9/11 shit though. So, a while back, I heard a fairly believable one, that the 10-year challenge that swept across social media a few years back was a ploy by big tech companies like Google to collect reference data for advanced facial recognition technologies. That fighter jet shot down Flight 93 on September 11th. Just think about it. 3 planes already crashed into the World Trade Towers and the Pentagon, and you have a 4th hijacked plane. Is it responsible, ethical to shoot it down and lose their lives on board rather than wait for it to crash into a building and kill even more people? One of my mother's cousins, David Davidson, was a neuroscientist in the JFK assassination. He said due to the bullet trajectory there had to be 2 shooters. The hardest part of that to believe is that some asshole would name their child David twice. Area 51 theories, of aliens being there. My grandmother is a complete conspiracy theory freak. Like Illuminati's supreme lizard leaders are observing us through our phones so they can mind control us to make energy for their matrix crazy. She doesn't spout this stuff off on Facebook or whatnot. She's quite humble about it, so it's fun to watch her go off on the stuff. Well, during one point she decided to read about the conspiracy theory of aliens on Area 51, so she got some books like Rachel's Eyes. They were all pretty cool, however they were all somewhat connected. Actually E.T. is a documentary but he didn't go home. He started a website called Facebook and his friend Elon is actually Elliot, trying to get his friend back to his planet before he continues making websites which cause us to hate each other and spread misinformation, out of spite for humans almost killing him back in the early 80s. The mild ones, Jim Morrison, Elvis, and James Dean never really died when the public was told, especially the JD theory. He was so disfigured after the car crash, he went and basically became a hermit. A friend of mine is convinced that the social media apps have a hidden program will make your phone vibrate even if there are no new notifications, just so you'll be more likely to check your phone. That COVID came from a lab in Wuhan, China. There is just a lot of coincidence and circumstantial evidence including stolen viruses and samples from Boston being taken there, and much more. It just seems that it would be easy if it were true, because no way would any government ever reveal that it was the case, because it would literally be a death sentence for every Chinese person around the world, and likely lead to World War III. At best, I think China is telling the whole story for sure. None. People are too selfish, disloyal, and stupid to pull one off. You can't have a surprise party among friends who care about each other without the guest of honor finding out, let alone a bunch of sleazy businessmen and politicians pulling off a conspiracy. Planned obsolescence is not a conspiracy, it is a fact. Since Norge built refrigerators in the 40s that still work, the industries learned quickly to build death into their products. COVID was made in a lab, just too many coincidences. I don't think the Chinese intentionally leaked it, I think it was a mistake from someone at the lab, but admitting that would ruin their reputation, so they've just gone along with the bat theory. I don't know if it counts as a conspiracy theory, But corona was a virus that escaped from a lab and didn't jump to humans because some guy decided to eat a bat. There was a lab doing research on similar viruses in bats 2 kilometers from the wet market where it supposedly started. The same market was criticized for health and safety failings in the past, and 2 lab workers were diagnosed with corona-like symptoms in late 2019. We already know that the local authorities covered up the virus outbreak at the start, and the CCP obstructed the WHO investigation into the origins of the virus. It's not that much of a leap to assume they invented the whole wet market story to save face. That there is a conspiracy theory market with supply and demand, and there is a conspiracy to profit from it while also keeping people nervous. If I were to work for some global cabal, I sure as fuck would sponsor and propagate 20 different conspiracy theories. It is incredibly easy money, and self-promotion. After further research, I don't think it's true, but for a while I believed there was a strong possibility that JFK was accidentally shot by a Secret Service agent in the ensuing chaos during his assassination attempt. I could definitely understand why that would be covered up, and it would only require a few people to keep the secret, so it doesn't seem crazy implausible. Members of the Belgian government had connections to serial killer Marc Dutroux. The way the case was mishandled, odd deaths surrounding it, and the testimonies of numerous women all come together to paint a picture of Marc Dutroux being involved in a sex trafficking ring that may have had connections to people in Belgian politics and law enforcement, something he himself claimed. After the Cuban Missile Crisis, the Cold War was kayfabe, with a secret agreement between the US and USSR to rule the world between them and stage occasional proxy wars to keep their military-industrial complexes humming and keep down China, Iran, the Third World in general. This Wikipedia goes into the co-dominion idea. https://n.wikipedia.org/wiki/vladivostok_summit_meeting_arms_control, a science fiction series. The co-dominion is based on this idea being more explicit. The problem was Reagan was a naive semi-idiot who, in a burst of patriotic senility and enthusiasm, broke the deal and restarted the Cold War, then ended it and crashed the whole Soviet system through his meddling, leading to the current Russian desire to mess with our politics and the idea of some like Trump that bringing co-dominion back is better. But neither country can totally be trusted by the other even under the table now. Newt Gingrich and top Republicans met in a dark, smoke-filled back room in Washington, and plotted the overthrow of the U.S. government by weaponizing politics and stuffing the Supreme Court while removing taxes on the very rich, and making corporations able to influence the vote using money. Back to a feudal future where wealthy landlords have everything worth having, and the rest of the population gets to work hard to stay alive and hope for promotion. There is a theory around where I live that our government has a plan re all the COVID actions well in advance, and just doles it out part by part. It's not far-fetched, but it's things like how they announce school closures, like knowing they'll stay closed now until next September but maintaining they'll be back in 2 weeks. That the US Gov knew 100% 9/11 was gonna happen but allowed it to strengthen support for a US pushback into the Middle East under pretense of vengeance. Almost every military person I know a lot BTW, also claims it was at the very least completely known to the feds that it would happen, but they knew they would have near universal support to swarm oil having countries as long as it was in the name of revenge. The pollen level and thus seasonal allergies have gotten worse because the people in charge of planning infrastructure only plant male trees which release pollen because female trees drop seeds which people don't want to clean up. Also, Adobe originally made Photoshop easy to pirate so everyone would use it, especially young potential designers. Then when people got jobs doing things that Photoshop would help with, they would get their workplaces to buy Photoshop, thus making them more money as well as the main photo manipulation tool. Now that they are a household name, they don't need to do that anymore though. A favorite of mine is a 9/11 theory. I'd about Bush did 9/11, but I think it's super suspect the way that the buildings collapsed straight down like that after being hit in the side by a plane. How did the planes damage skyscrapers like that in such a manner that they collapsed versus toppling over, as tall things are known to do when pushed hard in the side near the top? Jet fuel can't melt steel beams. Jet fuel burns at around 1000 degrees Fahrenheit in open air. Steel needs over 2500 degrees Fahrenheit to melt, and air around 1500 to be reasonably weakened. It doesn't change the fact that planes were flown into the buildings, and I'm not touching who caused 9/11, but buildings are literally designed not to collapse like that. Fall over, maybe, but not collapse straight down. As if the bottom-most supports had all been intentionally broken. That's all I'm saying.